Welcome to another edition of Marketing Unleashed. So excited to have all of you with us today. You know what you could do for us? That would be really, really awesome. If you could just sprinkle the love across all the interwebs, let everybody know what we're talking about. We're talking about podcasting and blogging and all this cool stuff today. I'm so excited for our guests, but just call them in, mention them down below, let them know what's going on, because even if they can't make it live, they can make the replay, and we answer questions in there as well. So make sure you do that. Like I said, I'm excited. I was in the background last week, just kind of hiding and pressing buttons. So I'm excited.
We missed you, Jeff.
I was there
really
until the
sad
power
to
went
not
out.
have you.
Then the power went out. That if you guys were towards the end of the show and everything went away, yeah, that was me in East Texas. So I want to give a shout out to the amazing Brian Farrell. He's always here from the UK. He is an amazing photographer. So if you haven't checked him out, you need to, because he's got a pretty cool Instagram feed. But Brian, thank you for stopping by again today. Susan, so glad that I'm back and with power, and the hamsters are running on the wheel, and so we've got it today. So
yeah, it was like we didn't really have a contingency plan, and then Jeff's power just went out, and it was a bit chaotic. There were messages flying back and forth on Slack. I decided to just keep talking. So that's footage lost to the world. I'm sure it was the best and brightest thing I will ever say.
It was
and
gold.
There's no recording. But yeah, you should definitely invite people to join us today. We're talking with Sandy Dedeian about entrepreneurship. And if you have not heard someone recently talk about ditching their day job to start their own gig, then you probably need to get out more, because there's a lot of talk about that. And you might know someone who's thinking of making that leap. So we're going to explore that, some of the myths about entrepreneurship and how to succeed as a real entrepreneur with Sandy. Before we do that, though, next week we have something special planned. If you've been in Tailwind recently, you might have seen an entirely new Tailwind experience. So what this means for us is that we have a new brand look and feel that you'll see through the product. And we have re-engineered the whole experience of Tailwind. One of the ways that you'll notice this first is that you no longer have to choose whether you want to use Tailwind for Instagram or Tailwind for Pinterest. You can sign up for one account and you get Tailwind for Instagram, Tailwind for Pinterest, and Tailwind for Facebook, which is pretty cool. You can now create and schedule images to Facebook as well as Instagram and Pinterest. So don't miss next week. We'll be demonstrating that for everyone. The reason we haven't done it yet is because, like with a lot of companies, it's a rollout. So there's a process of getting the new experience to all of our users, but by the next time we broadcast, everyone should have access to it. So definitely tune in for that. Jeff, do you have the new Tailwind experience yet, or are you still waiting for that?
I have it, but I have special access. So, I think maybe I tell myself I have special access, but we'll a lot of times not. But yes, I really think it's cool. It's really cool to be able to get in there and, like you said, do it all at once and not have to switch around. So, so very, very excited about that. By the way, today we are to let you guys know, we're talking with Sandy, but we actually have a blog where Lauren has actually interviewed her earlier. So make sure you guys go to bit.ly/Tailwind Rectified. That's bit.ly/Tailwind Rectified. Check that out. It's also another podcast that you can listen to as well as read the article. We've got all the bases covered over at Tailwind blog. Yeah. So make sure you guys go check that out.
Something for you.
Yes, exactly. So.
Yes. So speaking of Sandy was born into a family of entrepreneurs. So not only is she an entrepreneur, she is a second generation entrepreneur. She's never worked under or for anyone else except for her family's company. And when she was working with her family's company, she single-handedly started and ran their marketing department. So after all of that real life experience, she got an MBA from HBC Montreal. And in 2017, she founded Rectified, where she has spent time creating compelling brand strategies, go-to-market strategies for both brands and products. She's helped companies transition from B2B to B2C, and she has been able to lead generation campaigns, customer acquisition, and customer relationship management. So in addition to all of that, She is the host and the force behind the Rectified podcast. And if you check it out, you'll find interviews with Sandy talking to marketing subject matter experts to tease out all of the best tips that they have to offer for her podcast audience. She's definitely made an impressive career by being a serial entrepreneur, and I think shows that it really is possible to build your career as an entrepreneur. Welcome, Sandy. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this live with you.
Yeah, me too. One of the things that I learned about you in the blog post about you is that you have never worked for someone like a boss outside your family. I thought it'd be great if you could maybe just tell us a little bit about your career path.
I think it runs in the family. Even my grandma was sort of an entrepreneur back in the days, although women were not really that, especially we were from, like, she lives in the Middle East, so it's not something that's very common to have there, but she was an entrepreneur and she used to sell silverware, like fancy china and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah, so it runs in the family, but my career path, basically, I graduated from the university with a BA in business administration in 2004. And after that, I joined the family business, which was more of a traditional kind of business. You import products and you sell them. There was no real structure, real marketing. It was just happening by itself. So that's when I started, and as you mentioned earlier, I started the marketing department there, and slowly and gradually we built on on everything step by step throughout the years until 2015. I moved to Montreal and I did the MBA. And after that, I decided to stay here, and one thing led to another, and I started Rectified. That's like the short version of it.
That's awesome. I feel like there ought to be a group for entrepreneurial grandpa or grandmothers out there. I feel like this is a thing,
Yeah.
They're out there and they're getting it done.
Yes.
I sometimes, like all of us, we always say, if my grandma and her sisters also were with her, if they were in a different country, like in the US or in other parts of the world, they would have been I don't know, a very, very big company. But it's just the country where you are also affects how far you can go, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm fascinated about podcasting and podcasters. And so can you talk about, first of all, Rectified, like rectified.co. One, why did you pick that name? And then talk about your Rectified podcast, what you do and how that's kind of helped your business.
The name is actually bringing a part of my past with me. So our family business was a retail company where we used to sell a lot of products, but among them, the main category was ceramic tiles. So we used to import ceramic tiles from Italy and Spain and then sell them in our retail stores. So one type of tile is called a rectified tile, which is one that has super sharp edges, like laser cut. It's very technical. So I just wanted, I was brainstorming with my sisters and what kind of name should I put for my company, and I wanted to bring some part of my past with me because this is a completely different thing that I'm doing now. So that's how I came up with the name. It's basically a rectified tile, but also rectifying, a situation or a business, or the whole meaning of the word rectified.
So talk about your podcast. So you kept, of course, the same name. So
yeah,
what is the flavor and the bent for people who haven't checked out your podcast? Give us the elevator pitch of why people should listen to your podcast.
It's about everything marketing related, digital marketing, basically. So if you are a small business owner and you don't know anything about SEO, for example. It's really basic information about that topic, or something about Instagram, or something about Pinterest, or something. There's an episode for every single idea or category, and I have experts who come and talk to me about it and we discuss it. There are also short episodes, like bite-sized information, which are also on my blog post and in the podcast, and that's basically it.
Cool. So how do you work those two together? So I know you have like I saw your blog. It has a lot of your podcast episodes. Do the two feed each other, or do you have a different messaging that you're trying to do for your blog versus your podcast? Or is it, if people want to read it, they go to your blog? So how do you use those two together?
Yeah, when I have guests on my podcast, I do the podcast first, and then we like create a transcript and a blog post out of this episode. But for the episodes that are short, where I'm just by myself, telling people about any bite-sized information about marketing, that's when I write the blog post first, and then I transform it into a podcast. So it's kind of both.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Well, yeah, I had this question I wanted to ask you after we talked more about entrepreneurship, but since you brought it up a little bit, you were talking about all the different pieces of marketing is what you cover in your podcast. So what are some of the challenges that you've uncovered that small businesses struggle with? How did you come up with this list of things that you need to cover in the podcast? And how did your work with other businesses shape that list for you?
Yeah. What I usually do with small businesses is I notice that they don't have an idea about what to do. So most of them, they create a certain product or they have a certain service to offer, but they do not have a business background or a marketing background. They just don't know where they're going. So I had that a lot with the people I worked with, and I used to give them like an overall marketing strategy about everything that they need. And then we used to start to implement every single component by itself. So some people need to create a website and they don't know that they need SEO, and how do you how do you rank on Google, for example, or how do you bring traffic to your website? And then social media, they think that, oh, you only post a couple of pictures and then the clients will come. It's all small things like that we help them create like an overall picture of where they should go, um, and then they start implementing each of these components according to how much they can afford, obviously, because they're small businesses. So we always have this sort of a map that we follow, and it's when you break down that map, you have all these topics that go on the podcast.
That's great. I love to hear people's process and how they put these things together. But
Yeah,
growing up in a
basically,
go ahead.
yeah. What I wanted to say is, because I come from a super academic background, also, like I did a lot of degrees. That's why my mind is more strategic, and I always like to map out things instead of just starting with the execution first. So that's how my brain works.
That's cool. So you grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, and you have a lot of academic experience. How did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Like what drew you into this way of life or way to earn a living?
Well, I love that. I always have so many ideas. We all know that we cannot execute them all together, but this way, like by find like in Rectified, let's say, I have the opportunity to implement all my ideas on different businesses, which is what's appealing to me, and which is why I chose this path instead of like creating one single product and working on that one thing over and over again. So it was sort of like that. I don't see myself like really doing the same thing over and over again, let's say in a corporate world or something. So that's basically what took me there.
So I don't know, but if you've been on the internet lately, you've seen a lot of people talking about
Oh,
entrepreneurship. And they
yeah.
all have, like buy my course, I can teach you how to make, 6 figures in, 30 minutes. And so you hear about all these people talking about entrepreneurship, and it's all this, it's a way to, go to the next level. And do you think that these people tend to overhype the lifestyle or, like financial benefits, and
Yeah.
what ways I know you have to take your clients and actually go, okay, this is what, and you said you're a big planner, like this is what you can, really kind of think of what the next level, this is the steps to take, this is how long it's going to take. So, what do you think about like those online entrepreneur coaches and then like what you teach and the actual truth?
Yeah. One of the things that led me to talk about this actually was these people that I see online, the ones you're talking about. Nothing is as glamorous as it seems, and nothing comes overnight. I mean, I don't know if maybe they are like geniuses and things happen to them in like 2 months or so, but it's never easy. Like people never understand, even if you make six figures, these six figures are not in your pocket. You have expenses, you have people to
Right.
pay. It's not like if you're making $100,000, the 100,000 are in your pocket and you're spending them on buying your next car or your
Right.
next, I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people need to understand that even seven figures are disappearing, because to make seven figures you need people to work with you. You cannot do them by yourself. You need a bigger team, then you have to pay salaries and you have more
Mhm.
responsibilities. Yeah, it's never as glamorous as it seems. And let's not forget about taxes,
Oh yeah. That's what I was going to say.
which
Yeah.
is which is a whole other story. So it's what I see online is just like a dream. Oh, leave your 9 to 5 and you're gonna be rich and this and that. But chances are we're gonna fail. Like we all failed at some point. Even me and probably you guys. I mean, we all fail at some point and then we restart in a way or another.
Yeah, that's a great reality check. In fact, it reminds me of one of my friends. He does goat milk stuff. Their whole family runs this goat. They sell goat milk stuff and they make hand lotions and all this stuff. And they have all these barns, this real pretty stuff where they sell produce and all this stuff. And everybody comes and says, "I want that. I want that. I want to be like that." They don't realize that they started with one barn and they slept on the floor and had a porta potty that they would go to. And I mean, you always see the end result and you don't see all the struggle and the heartache that goes with it. So I think that's a great point. Like, yeah, taxes are coming, the more money
Yes.
you make, the more taxes you have to pay. So very, very true.
Exactly.
So one of the myths might be that it's not as glamorous, or so the myth would be that being an entrepreneur is all glamour all the time, when really you've got to sleep in the goat barn occasionally.
Right, right.
Another myth might be that all the money that you make, you're just going to spend the next day. What are some of the other big myths about entrepreneurship that you've uncovered, Sandy?
There's something that people don't also take into consideration. Like when you have a corporate job, you have your salary. So you get your salary every 2 weeks, let's say, or every month, whatever. It depends on where you are and what you're doing. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't know, like you cannot plan ahead. You don't know you can't control your cash flow. Some clients may pay you on time, some clients may not pay you on time. Well, it depends on what you're doing also, but the cash flow is not always constant, which is also an important thing to take into consideration if you have a family, if you have obligations, a mortgage, I don't know, a rent, or lots of payments to do. That's also another part that gives a lot of people anxiety, because they're not able to rely on that cash flow unless they become like big enough. But at the beginning, there's always the struggle to make enough money after tax.
Mhm.
Yes, so that you're able to pay, for example, for whatever you need to survive. So that's also another factor. It's You're never getting things for free, and you have to work a lot of hours to get just a tiny little bit of money at the beginning.
So everybody's just like, man, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. This is hard. So let's talk about, so we've kind of covered the negative things like, okay, yeah, the
Yes.
reality check. So let's talk about the parts of the being an entrepreneur that you love and why you like it and why you coach people about it and why I mean, yes, but you've had to work for your family, and that's maybe even worse than working for the corporate world. But
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? But what do what are some good things that you really enjoy about being an entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, like you said, it's not all negative. It's very nice to create something that's your own. It's super nice to have the freedom to create that thing that you love, although sometimes the customers or the market dictate something else, but you can always find a way to be happy with what you're doing.
Mhm.
And there's always this high of like, I just launched this thing and it worked and like people signed up, or like there's a new client who wants to create this new project. And for me personally, I feel like an all-time high when I get
Mhm.
like a new project or something. It just feels so good, and I always celebrate my wins, whether they're small or big. So it's very nice. You can always be as creative as you want, as creative as you want to be, and I think that's the part that I like the most, basically.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's interesting that you mentioned about you can create something that you love, and then you kind of nodded to the fact that the market has to want it. And I think that's such a that for me has been one of the myths of entrepreneurship that I think I've heard around a lot, is that you can just do whatever you want. And that is true. But if you actually want people to buy it, it has to be something that they have an interest in. Um, so there's a synergy between what we want to do
Yeah,
and what other people want to buy. Yeah.
that's
so
true. There,
I was going to say,
there's another thing also. Sorry.
yeah, I was going to say, by the way, speaking of things that you created and that people can buy, we have your course right here. See how segue? Perfect. So, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So, if you want to check out her course, which is very, very cool, you can go to bit.ly/TW pin and grow, bit.ly/TW pin and grow. Talk about this course, what actually it is, Sandy, and why people should sign up for it.
It's a course where I teach them about Pinterest marketing, like how to market their business on Pinterest, basically. There are so many workshops, mostly for beginners who don't know what to do. It's evolving slowly and gradually as people evolve through the course. Of course, it's not a course, it's more like a membership. So every month there's a new workshop that drops on the platform, and they can watch it whenever they want. And that's basically it. It's everything related to Pinterest marketing, basically.
So, yeah, make sure you guys go check that out because it's really, really cool.
So speaking of Pinterest marketing, what are some of the changes that you've seen in Pinterest marketing over the last couple of years? I don't think there've been any.
No,
Just going to
not at
get
all.
that out.
No, just in the past couple of weeks, we have like a huge drop of new features that are driving people crazy. But I think they're cool, but like people are scared and they don't know what to do about them. Um, I don't know. It's that we have a lot of idea pins and takes, and 2 days ago they announced the TV thing. I don't know if you've seen it.
Mm-mm.
No, fill me in. I haven't seen it.
No.
Yeah,
So
what are they
there's
doing?
a Pinterest TV thing where creators will have their shows on Pinterest, but I don't think it's something that we have to create. Like, it's done by Pinterest so people can watch. This is what I understood, but I may be mistaken because it's all new.
Right.
So it will be launched on the 8th of November in the US.
Well,
Um,
we got
we should check it out.
yeah, we probably should figure that out, Susan, and figure out what that is because that's right up our alley.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited about the takes. I think that's fascinating. Like for us at Tailwind, we've been having some chats about how we're going to incorporate the Pinterest takes, and essentially, tie them to different parts of our pins about our product, and then encourage people to send their takes when they try it. So I think that's really fascinating. Oh, and Brian, thank you,
Yeah, thanks,
Brian.
Brian.
He's giving us the link to this. That's
Yes.
great.
So Brian's on top of it. So way to go, Brian.
yeah.
Thank you for doing that. So I'm not going to read that URL for you people listening to the podcast, but just do a search for Pinterest TV and you'll find it. So very, very
Yeah.
cool.
It's
And
in the
search for
newsroom
Brian.
page.
And he's got another point. It's like next year was going to be very interesting on Pinterest. Yeah, it's already interesting. It's going to get even more crazy. So that's why you need to watch the
Yeah,
show so you can find out stuff like this.
exactly. They need
How
to
do you
create
see?
idea pins.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just saying that they need to create idea pins, basically.
Yeah. So, how are you using idea pins, or how are you thinking that you'll encourage your clients to use them? What are some ideas that you've had about how to get the most out of that feature?
I think it evolved in a way that's like it's becoming better and better. When it started, I didn't like it much. It was weird. It was like different slides that we put together, and then we have to upload on, your our laptops, and it was a bit weird, like how like the functionality. But now it's easier on the app. You can just record videos and even write on them. I find that it's evolving to become like easier to create, and I think it's nice. Except I don't. I'm gonna say it like just like that. Um, I don't like when people post their like TikToks and
Right.
reels instead of idea pins. I prefer if they create something actually that's only for idea pins, or like they try to repurpose that idea but actually created on the app, and then have like the different slides that go
Hmm.
one after the other. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, and I think they've even said that if they see that TikTok watermark, that they devalue it inside of like the algorithm. So I get that. So one of the things I kind of want to go back a little bit. We got all excited about new things on Pinterest, which we tend to do. Shiny object syndrome here on Marketing Unleashed. But Brian, so I want to talk about mindset. So Brian brings up this great comment when we were talking about, keeping everything in freedom. And he goes, my positives go hand in hand with the negatives. 80% of my work is in the 3 months of summer, so cash flow needs to be kept in check. But the freedom he has to travel in the winter is amazing. So that is amazing. So I want to talk about, like, how do you stay motivated, Sandy? What are some things, Brian knows that he's got the winter to travel. As an entrepreneur, what helps you stay motivated and keeping on track?
Well, Brian, I don't have the winter to travel. Basically, because we have social media as a component in our marketing strategies, and social media never stops. So we have to be always on. But what keeps me motivated is, well, sometimes I admit that I'm not, and I just like feel like giving up. But then something nice happens, and then there's like this a cool project or a cool idea that I want to implement, and then I start again and again. Um, Motivation comes from people you're surrounded by, from your wins, from the new contracts that you sign, the new projects that you have. For me, this gives me, as I said before, like a very like an all-time high,
Hmm.
when I
Hmm.
get something new and exciting to do. And it's also very important to surround yourself with people who uh, give you that positive energy, who encourage you, who tells you, oh, this is great. I'm that kind of person who
Right.
needs like a feedback. So this helps me a lot.
So do you have like a mastermind group that you are participate in, or do you have like a group of friends or other like business owners and leaders that you meet with regularly to kind of have that motivation or that accountability?
I do not have a group that we like. I don't have an actual group where we
Hmm.
meet regularly, but it's something that I would like to do in the future, or like work with a coach or
Hmm.
something to like help me out with things. These are things that I'm planning for the future. But in general, in my life, having been in multiple business schools,
Right.
all the people I know are business people. They're
Hmm.
consultants, they're
Right.
people who work in the financial sector, they're people who are bankers, marketers, like all kinds of people, and I can discuss all these topics with them and like pick their brain, about things about finance, how to keep my finances, how to do the taxes, this and this and that. So it's all helpful basically, because this is actually who my friends are basically.
Good friends to have
Mm.
when you're in business, right
Yeah.
there.
And the older we get, the more like they become, oh, vice president of this company or director of that company, like we're not 20 anymore. So things are evolving and they're becoming like this big executives, and I can always benefit from their experiences too.
So that's a great point. You talked about how to stay motivated and some things you need to do when you're an entrepreneur first starting out is the power of networking, because that's what you're pretty much just saying right there is like these are friends that you went to school with and you kept in contact with, and now you're not friends with them just to use them later on. Hopefully, that's not a good idea. But you have these connections, and that is super important. And I think the more we get, as we grow businesses, and it's easy to focus on our company and just stare at our computer screen all the time. We need to think about those relationships that continue to grow and can pay off down the road.
Well, that's such a
Yeah,
great point,
definitely.
Jeff.
Yeah.
We also have it's weird. I always used to hear people say, "Oh, my Instagram friend," or "my Twitter friend," or something. And now I actually have Instagram friends. Like, I'm in Montreal, I have Instagram friends in Texas and Instagram friends
Mm-hmm.
in, I don't know, Switzerland and things like that. And I'm like, oh my God, it actually happened. But there's also like a virtual networking happening on social media platforms, not just in real life. And that's also equally important.
Yeah. Texas Instagram friends are the best, by the way. So just saying.
That's so funny. Yeah, so one of your tips would be to have a network. What are some of your other tips for being a successful entrepreneur?
Well, I can't say I'm successful yet, but like working on it, but I'm not there yet. Like, I still have a lot to do, but I did learn some things along the way. First of all, I think it's very important to build a business that you're happy with, that looks like you, that has your values as a start, as a foundation of everything. Like, I cannot go ahead and um, do something in my business that I'm not convinced with or I don't want to do, because at the end of the day, this is something that you're building and this is something that you want to have like in your life, and this is where we spend most of our time basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that's very important. There's another component, because we're alone and we do not have a boss. It's very important to work on ourselves, to improve ourselves, maybe read, maybe listen to podcasts, maybe take a course, anything that can help us improve and become like better leaders or better business people or business entrepreneurs. Or, you know, you can always learn from other people. And also networking is another component which helps you also work on yourself and become like someone who's better than the person you were yesterday
Mm-hmm.
basically. What else? Do we want more things?
Well, that's great. Yeah. The more
That's an
the
amazing list.
yes, it is.
It's important also to accept that not all your ideas will succeed, and not all your ideas are viable ideas, and that we will fail, but we will also win. So we need to stop like crying over our failures and always like get back in the game, because there's another win that's coming right up after this failure. This is something very important, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an
Right.
employee. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
Do we need more?
No, so I want to, and this is I'm going to steal Susan's questions because it's so good, and that way I look good. Um, but you mentioned, not having a boss to go to, and so what do you do when you have one of these businesses challenges or something comes up, like you haven't, because you said you're still in the process. When you have this challenge, or you don't know the answer, or you're not familiar with it, where do you go? You mentioned podcast, you mentioned, networking with friends. Is there any other, like, do you have a go-to resource that you could share with our listeners and our viewers that you really have found really, really helpful?
My biggest challenges are not very, like, they're not marketing related. They're more like business related, like
Mm-hmm.
financial things, or as I said, cash flow or taxes, or like business development or operations and things like that. They're not really about the core of what we offer as a service, but more like an operational thing of a business. And as I mentioned earlier, for me, I'm sorry I cannot help you with that, but for me, my go-to people are my sister, who's actually a financial consultant.
Oh yeah.
So she helps me with my financial struggles, not struggles, but more like she gives me advice about what to do and what not to do. And I have another friend also who's a consultant, so we always talk to each other. My best friend is an entrepreneur. She's in the US, and she has like a super super fast growing company.
Oh, cool.
And I always take her advice in terms of entrepreneurship and leadership and how to grow and this and that. So it's really my tight network. I never like have this big group of,
Right.
people who help. But as I mentioned also, I am going to, like, in the beginning of 2022, I'm going to seek coaching in terms of sales and business development, because I feel like I need to work on myself in that area.
Well, you got so many
If you have
friends.
any coaches.
You've got so many friends that it's, yeah, it's like, it's amazing that you don't really need a coach. You've got so many of them. So it's pretty cool.
I think
Well,
we're all coming to your house.
That's right.
You just get them all
We just need her
together and
friends.
just,
Yeah. You just need her
yeah.
friends.
honestly, they're not too many, but like the ones I have, I think at the end of the day, we're ending up with people who are like us. So it's a very small circle, but my small circle is really this kind of people. It just happened that way.
Very cool.
Hmm. So we talked about changes in Pinterest marketing, but what changes have you seen in social media marketing? Is it easier or is it harder, do you think, for small businesses to do social media marketing now than it was, say, 5 years ago?
I think it's much harder. I don't know if you agree with me, but there's a lot happening, and you need to produce a lot of content. And small businesses don't have the bandwidth to do that. They need a lot of money. There's a lot of quality content out there. So, not everybody is able to produce quality content, and there's a lot of competition. I think it's getting harder, which is why one of the services I try to offer, like, I create some bundles where we give small businesses content creation as well as managing their social media platforms, but g- leaning towards the cheaper side. I'm not saying cheap quality, but something that they can afford, not
Mhm.
super cheap and not super expensive, like
Mhm.
somewhere in the middle that they can afford, so we can help them grow. Because for me, I know the struggles of small businesses and I really would like to help. So it's one of the things that I focus on, like helping them achieve their goals, basically.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
has
I
to
don't
be
know if you agree
sustainable.
with me.
Yeah. Well,
No,
Susan will
I think
jump right
it's
at you if she doesn't agree. So, I mean, you gotta watch out. So,
No, I do agree with you. I think it's harder. And I think you're right about content because there's so much highly produced content that is coming out in all the social channels that it does make it really hard for small businesses to compete there, which is honestly one of the drivers behind the Tailwind Create experience, which is to help small businesses who already have a blog or a product catalog that they're working from find an easy, sustainable way to create content to amplify what they've already done in their business.
mm,
Yeah, I agree. Tailwind Create is a really amazing tool. I really find it nice because not everybody has design skills. Not everybody, even if you have, let's say, Canva, you cannot create something nice. While here, with just like a couple of, you just put a couple of information, and then here you go. You have like all those designs. So I really like this tool, by the way.
that's
Since you
great.
brought up Tailwind,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Also, I one of the things that you said in the interview with Lauren, who works on our blog content, is that you said Tailwind is part of my team. What does that mean? How does Tailwind fill a team spot for you?
Well, it's I use Tailwind for Pinterest management mostly. I like the idea that I put everything out there, like for me, for my clients who signed up for like done for you services, and it's just there. Everything that's automated for me is part of my team. So I have Tailwind as one of the components of my team, because you shouldn't do this in a manual way. It's just automated. So I mean, it's self-explanatory if I say.
So Brian says this. He goes, "Tailwind works for me while he's on the beach." So he's rubbing it in that he gets to travel during the winter is what he's doing there. So we see you. We
Yeah.
see you, Brian.
So, what is your secret sauce? So, you've mentioned that you use Tailwind for your Pinterest marketing. What are some of the other ways that you market Rectified using social media?
Well, I'm on Instagram. I'm on mostly I focus on Instagram. Now I'm starting to experiment with TikTok. Like
Oh,
I don't,
Awesome.
I don't know. I have like 7 followers on TikTok, basically, but I'm playing around with it because I see that this is something that I need to learn more about. I mean, I read a lot of predictions about 2022, and that's where we're all going. It's not easy to produce video content all the time. I also rely a lot on Pinterest, which is an amazing platform for, blogging and like driving traffic, driving people to my website, or like building that email list and, all that. Yeah, I do some LinkedIn, but not much.
so congratulations on your 7 people on TikTok. That's like 6 more than I have. So very, very good. But can you?
We
So
celebrate all the wins,
that's right.
not
We
just the big
celebrate them
wins.
all.
Sandy said it first.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, so let's talk about this. You mentioned, TikTok's kind of an example of this, and Pinterest and Instagram and all this stuff. So, can you give somebody a tips on like, because it can be really overwhelming when they start, when you start a business, you got all the taxes and the forms and, registrations and all that stuff you got to do. And then you hear, well, you've got to be on Instagram. Well, no, you got to be on TikTok. No, you should be on LinkedIn because that's where all the business is. Oh, you should be on Pinterest because it's long-term traffic. So how do you do this when you have all these different, hats, and where should you spend your marketing focus? Where should you spend your time?
I say choose one platform at a time and get like if you are in the B2B world, Instagram will not do much for you, for example. You have
Mm,
to be on LinkedIn. Example, So it depends on you if you are in, I don't know, selling consumer goods, that's a whole other world, and you need to choose the right platform for your product and your business. But you're small, you don't know what to do, just start with one at least. Like you want to do Instagram, just do Instagram, work
mm,
on it. Don't do Instagram and TikTok and you're overwhelmed and you feel like you're in this hamster wheel and you're
right.
unable to produce the content. Just do one thing at a time and then add on it. The more you feel like you can do all of this together, or you have the capacity to have a team to help you, just increase and build on, block by block.
That's a great point. And I think doing something that you like. I started on Pinterest because that's what was easy, and I was lazy, and so, and I started to
It
like it.
was.
Yeah, so it was really easy. So, I think it's one you enjoy is one of those two. So, like if you hate getting on camera, you're probably not going to want to start with YouTube. I mean, just probably not. So,
Exactly. But nowadays, I think we don't have a choice. Eventually, we will all have to go on camera because that's the future as we're
that's true.
seeing.
Right. Yeah, this is not
I
my
think
choice.
that's such a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
Mm.
interesting too because a skill that you learn. So when one of the questions was about whether or not marketing is hard, and I think yeah, it is in some ways, and in other ways it can be simple because if you understand an audience and know what you want to communicate to them, then you get practice at communicating that message in different ways on different platforms. And I was thinking about that with choosing one network and starting because the skills you learn in bringing your message alive on one social network, the skill itself translates to other social networks, even if the content changes.
Mm, yeah. So,
Exactly.
So, Sandy, let's say pretend I'm your client. I'm brand new. I just started this new business where I sell beard products, beard combs. I got a beard comb that I'm selling.
Ooh.
Okay, it's really cool. It's state of the art. It's digital, whatever. So, what tools will I need to get started for running like a really good small business marketing? Like when a client comes to you and says, "Hey, brand new, just starting. What do I need to start with? What do I need to buy first for like a software piece or tool or whatever to do my marketing?" What do you tell them?
Tool you mean to manage social media or tool to manage their business?
Marketing, just like let's say at marketing. So they've got, let's say they got QuickBooks and they got all the accounting stuff and all that, billing and all that. So this is to market their business. Like what do they need first to really start marketing and letting other people know they have this? I have this great beard comb that everybody needs to buy, even people who don't have beards.
If they need a tool for social media, I'll say it's Tailwind, basically.
Good answer. Good answer.
because you can do Pinterest and you can do Instagram at the same time. And I believe most B2C businesses need to be on Instagram, because if you're not there, you're like, people cannot find you.
Hmm.
Like this is the truth, this is the reality. But it depends also on your audience. If your product is for younger people, maybe I say ditch everything else and go to TikTok, because you know what kind of people are there. So it all
Right.
depends on your audience too.
So
But
here's,
yeah.
oh, sorry. I was going to ask, okay, this is a good question. So would you tell people that they need to be on Instagram first, or they need to have a website first? Can you have a business without having a website?
If you're selling online, you have to have that website, basically. If you're an e-commerce business, I do believe a website is important. For me, I don't know, but there are a lot of businesses who start on Instagram and try to see if their product is viable or what kind of feedback they have. But at the end of the day, we all know that the only thing we own is our website.
Hmm.
So, and our emails, basically.
Right.
So we have to use that to build that email list and be able to communicate, to avoid any, I don't know, like what happened on Instagram the other day. The whole day nobody had Instagram and the world went crazy and
Yes, it
everybody went
melted.
crazy.
Yes, the internet went
Yeah.
on fire. So
Yeah.
that's a great point what you said, and I want to make sure people hear that. And because every entrepreneur that I have talked to has said, I wish I started gathering email addresses earlier. Every one of them have said that if they asked me one thing they wish they would have done. So what do you tell that guy selling beard comb? What do you need? How can he start creating an email list?
Well, you're selling the beard comb on your website, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so, so give them an incentive to get, so that they can give you your email. It's like the first step, as simple as that. Give them a discount. Give them something in return of that, email. And if they buy from you, eventually have their emails, because they're going to sign up to and open an account.
Hmm.
So that's another way. There are so many ways, just like freebies. And if you're a service provider, it's a whole other thing. But discounts work a lot with product-based businesses.
Great advice. Great advice. So I've
I
got to
have a
go and
friend.
start my beard comb thing. Yeah.
What I don't like, I don't know if you agree with me or if you like that, because every person is different. What I don't like is when I go on a certain website and then I get the discount immediately before even checking the product out.
Hmm.
So I usually tell people to give it like a delayed time, but I don't know if you like that or not.
Yeah. So that's really funny that you say that, because I just went and bought some stuff because I'm getting ready for a trip, and I had both of those things happen. Like, it waited until I got to the shopping cart, and the one that I liked, which made more sense, was like, but it was a little more hoops to go through. Is they wanted me to sign up and I get it in my email inbox, which I understand, which is great because they've got my email address now and they can resell to me. The other one did that same thing where it just popped up like a banner at the top, said, "Hey, new users," and I could tell like it was just a cookie and it didn't have anything to do with that it was just trying to give me a code to get me to buy something. So I would tend to agree with you. For a business standpoint, is getting that email address and sending it to them and getting them used to getting an email from you.
I think
Yeah.
experience wise, I agree with you, Sandy, because who knows if I want to buy something. The second I land on the website, it's like, I don't know. We're just, I just saw you, or we're just getting to know each other. That does seem a little early to me too.
Well, Brian
Yeah,
says
exactly.
beard scrunchies. So, hey, Brian, if you'll take the
What?
pictures, I mean, we may have a business plan right there. I'm telling you. So very,
We
very
like
cool.
that.
Yes. Good idea. So, any other questions, Susan, that you have before we? But by the way, if you guys you came in halfway through the middle of this, we did a great interview. Not me, Lauren did as a podcast, and actually an article over on Tailwind, and you can go find that article at bit.ly/Tailwind Rectified. That's bit.ly/Tailwind Rectified. And Sandy's actually also got a really good course on Pinterest, and you can find that at bit.ly/TW Pin and Grow. That's bit.ly/TW Pin and Grow. So make sure you check that out, because anything on Pinterest is always good. And she loves create too. So, I mean, what could go wrong? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely want to get that offer.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no other questions except, the next time you have all your friends over, can I get an invite to that
Yes.
powered group?
That's right.
Definitely.
It sounds amazing.
Definitely.
And guys, don't forget about and check out her blog and her podcast. And you know what? If you go check her out on check out Rectified on like Apple Podcast or Google Play, Stitcher, all those places, and leave her a rating and review. That really, really does help out podcasts. Let them get known and get spread out there. Things are crazy right now with Apple and Spotify, so it's, getting good SEO is always awesome. So if you liked what Sandy said today, make sure you guys go do that. Also, we are a podcast as well over at Tailwind, Marketing Unleashed. You can go over there. Just search for Tailwind. We're everywhere, and we would love a rating and review as well. And with that, Susan, I'll let you close us out.
Thank you for being here. We have another look at our very favorite of all time Tailwind video, which we'll play for you as we go.
Right.
And Sandy, thanks again so much. It's been really great to learn from you. Love your just no nonsense and hands-on effective approach to building an entrepreneurial life. So thanks for being here with us.
Yes, great
Thank
conversation.
you for having me.
See you guys later. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody in the comments. We appreciate you. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
To Tailwind basically being my marketing team, my party planning business is thriving. What do you use?
I like to post things, and then I have this spreadsheet that's all color coordinated that I keep.
I'm saving so much time that I finally learned how to DJ. Now I plan and DJ bachelorette parties, weddings, baby showers too.
My parties are fun too.
And because Tailwind automatically creates and schedules my social media marketing, business is really taking off. Sales goal! And to celebrate, I planned an alpaca party! I've always wanted one. Thanks, Tailwind! Mwah! Woo!